By turning up the volume beyond naturalism, beyond reality, you can actually allow the political problems of India, the way that Dev Patel and these writers see it, to become even clearer for the audience. Hello, I'm Jacob Kruger, and this is the Write Your Screenplay podcast. This episode, we are going to be studying Monkey Man, the new Dev Patel movie with a screenplay by Paul Angunawala and John Colley and a story by Dev Patel. This is a really special film for me because one of our students, Joseph J.U. Taylor, has a wonderful small role in the piece. He's fantastic, and we are really proud of you, Joseph. I do want to warn you that there are going to be some moderate spoilers of the first half of the movie. We're definitely going to spoil the sea change. That's the midpoint of the film for those of you who haven't studied 7-act structure. And I will give you a heads up before we get into the deeper spoilers of the second half of the film. What we're really going to be looking at is the epic scope of Monkey Man and how it uses the power of the action movie to deliver something that's really much more profound than your typical popcorn movie. We're going to be talking about the difference between expressionism and naturalism and realism, surrealism, and we're going to be talking about an important element of 7-act structure called the sea change and how it functions in Monkey Man. We're also going to be looking at a small but really significant moment in the film that will show you how to create a sense of reality and fully realized characters, even inside of a super heightened, action-packed, expressionistic piece like Monkey Man. Now, a lot of people have described Monkey Man as essentially John Wick in India. It's a giant, bloody revenge fantasy told through almost non-stop action sequences. And in many ways, that is what Monkey Man is. It's like a Quentin Tarantino movie translated to India, like Kill Bill or Inglourious Basterds, with larger-than-life action sequences that are almost expressionistic in their nature. So what exactly do I mean when I say expressionistic? What is expressionism in screenwriting? And how does it differ from realism or naturalism or surrealism or magical realism? When we talk about realism, what we're talking about is something that plays out almost exactly the way things do in real life. And you might think that most small character-driven movies must be realistic, but the truth is, no, actually they're not. A weird thing happens if you hang out in realism too long in films, which is that the realism tends to not feel real. Movies move so much faster than real life. In life, you have, we'll call it 100 years to live your life, to go through the profound changes you're going to go through in your life. But in movies, we got about 100 minutes. And that means that movies have to move at a much more heightened and a much more focused pace. If you were going to try to tell a story of your own most profound change in realism, it wouldn't take you pages, it would take you months, maybe even years. And it would feel like it was taking forever because realism in our real lives tend to be diffuse. And what we're actually doing as screenwriters, the wonderful gift that we are giving our audience, is the power to take the mush of the realism of our lives, which comes at us things that are unrelated all the time, and everything feels overwhelming and mushy, and go like, let's pull out all the stuff that doesn't matter. Let's pull out all the stuff that's not important so that you can see the one thing that is important more clearly. When movies do this, when TV does this, when plays do this even, they're not taking place in realism, even though they feel realistic. They're actually taking place in the world of naturalism. What naturalism is a heightened, faster, more extreme version of reality that actually feels real, but it's happening at a more high-pitched pace. It is happening in a more focused perspective. It is happening in a slightly exaggerated mode. In realism, when you meet an old friend, a lot of your conversations are like this. How are you doing? I'm good. right? Half of our language is not even connected. It's just automatic or robotic. It doesn't show who we are or what we want. It doesn't contain our how. It doesn't contain the pure essence of our desires or our needs. In real life, half the time, we're not even connected to our own wants or our own needs. We're not even making choices. We're kind of like in that in-betweeny place. I really should, but I don't want to. Maybe I should. Maybe I will. I don't know. I should. Oh, finally I did. That's realism. We're in these states of limbo most of our lives, in which every now and then we have these punctuating moments like, wah, bang, that matters. And of course, if you start to make big choices and have punctuating moments more often in your life, guess what's going to happen? You are going to go on a bigger journey. And the same thing is true in our writing. The more we push out of realism and into naturalism, the bigger and more profound and more clear the journey starts to feel. So what's magical about naturalism is that it's actually far heightened from our reality, but it actually tends to feel for an audience more real than realism. So if we were to write the story of Monkey Man in the world of realism, we'd have all these boring moments, and we'd end up with a diffuse storytelling where it would be hard to actually capture the kid's journey in the short period of time we have. And of course, in TV, we have even less time. Even though we have more episodes, the episodes are shorter. So in both movies and TV, we tend to live in this heightened place of naturalism. So naturalism means the volume is turned up. All the stuff that doesn't really matter, the stuff that's not vital to the storytelling, is cut out. We're left with only those moments that matter. We're left with only the great lines. In real life, you're hanging out with somebody, they say something funny, and 2 hours later, you're like, oh man, I know what I should have said. In naturalism, they say the funny thing, then you respond with the even funnier thing, and then they say the even funnier thing that tops that. As a writer, maybe it took you days to figure that out. But on the screen, it feels like it's just happening. And we get a more pure version of who the character is and what their rapport with the other character is. What's interesting about most action movies, whether it's an indie action film like Monkey Man, or a more mainstream $100 million blockbuster epic like Top Gun, they often also don't take place in naturalism. These films tend to take place in the world of expressionism, meaning that the story that we're seeing on the outside is not actually a literal reality. It's more of an expression, an externalization of what it feels like on the inside of the character. In traditional Hollywood popcorn movies, that's people making jokes while they fight. That's people being able to hold onto a ledge by a pinky, right? That kind of stuff's not real. Even The Rock is not that tough. But the character feels that tough. It's an expression, not a naturalistic expression, but a heightened expression of what it feels like on the inside. And so this is a really weird intersection and fun intersection, right? This is a place where the most experimental indie films, which often take place in a world of expressionism, and the most mainstream Hollywood movies, which also take place in the world of expressionism, actually connect. What both experimental films and mainstream action movies are doing is actually taking something that's on the inside and turning it up beyond what feels real to a place where we're getting an expression of that internal state on the outside, turning it up past naturalism, past a heightened version that feels like reality, to a place that actually feels heightened. Now, what Dev Patel is doing in Monkey Man is using expressionism to look at class in India. He's using the vehicle of the blood-soaked action movie to look at a profound political issue. Now, let's start talking about the structure of Monkey Man. Instead of starting with an action opening, the movie actually starts in a spiritual way. It starts with a mother telling her son the story of Hanuman. Hanuman, of course, is the monkey god in Hinduism. The story of Hanuman, the way she tells it, is that he became enthralled by this beautiful mango, and he wanted to eat it. And Hanuman didn't realize that what he was actually reaching for was not a mango, but the sun. He was reaching for something bigger than him. And because of his hubris, the gods then punished him and took away his power. So that is the story of Hanuman at the center of Dev Patel's Monkey Man. And structurally, from a character perspective, at the center of Monkey Man is Dev Patel's character, the kid. We're never going to learn his real name. And the kid is the embodiment of that version of Hanuman. He's a man who fights with a monkey mask on, a man who gives away his power. He's been punished societally because of his poverty, because of his background, because of his class. Terrible things have happened to his mother and to him, and there is nothing he can do about it, or so it seems. Even in his career as a fighter, his job is not to win. His job is to bleed. His job is to give away his power to less talented, more privileged fighters. So there's a connection between these two stories. There's a story of Hanuman reaching too high for the mango and losing his power, having his power taken unfairly away from him. And there's the story of the kid having his power taken away from him. There's a metaphor that all this is standing in for of the caste system in India, which, even though it's technically outlawed, still exists economically and societally in so many ways. You're not allowed to reach for the sun. You're not allowed to reach for the mango. You're not allowed to reach for the thing you want. For the kid, the mango, the thing he's reaching for, is revenge. He wants revenge against two men. One is the famous guru who's manipulating the populace for his own political gains, his own violence through the teachings of Hinduism. A man who's using religion for control. And the other, number two, is a corrupt police officer. These two men are responsible for what happened to the kid's mother and his people, which, without spoiling too much, was not good. So from the very beginning of this action film, we have these little vignettes, these beautiful little flashbacks of this larger-than-life woman. Again, these experiences, these little flashbacks, are not happening in the world of naturalism either. We're not seeing mom get angry and ask him to do his chores. We're not seeing the complicated naturalistic relationship with his mom. We're only seeing this heightened, perfect version of her. Mom, the way that the kid remembers her, dreams of her, idealizes her, memorializes her. The way she feels to him on the inside is being externalized in the way these scenes are shot on the outside. These are the haunting memories that are with the kid and that are driving his desire for revenge. This beauty turned inside out, just like Hanuman reaching for the beautiful mango of the sun. That revenge is the mango that the kid is reaching for. So the kid gets a job at an extremely high-end brothel, where through all kinds of interesting manipulations and machinations, he manages to get himself in a position where he can finally take his revenge. He's got a great plan. We've been waiting for it. We know what's coming, and we are rooting for him. We know why he wants the revenge, and we are on his side. That brings us to the sea change of the Monkey Man screenplay. For those of you who have not studied 7-act structure with me, Sea change is what Sid Field would call the midpoint. But it does so much more than just serve as a midpoint. It does so much more structural. You can think of your sea change like this. For the first half of your film, you're rolling the tide in as far as you can. In this case, the tide is rolling in towards a well-planned revenge against some really bad people. In the second half of your film, what you're doing is you're rolling the tide back out over that same landscape to see how everything has changed. So through a bunch of schemes and machinations and brilliant plans and a little bit of luck, the kid finally finds himself in a position where he can take his revenge. We get these awesome action sequences as he carries out his plan, and it doesn't work. This is the first and most important lesson I want you to take when you're thinking about the structure of your screenplay. You understand naturalism, you understand expressionism, but structure means that you are willing as a writer to take away the thing your character wants, to let them suffer unfairly, to push them beyond the reasonable limits. For this character, the kid, everything's been building towards revenge. We've been waiting for the revenge. We're halfway through the movie, and instead of getting revenge, we get the opposite. Instead of getting revenge, everything goes wrong, and then everything goes wronger, and then everything goes even wronger. The writers are merciless in the way they torture this character. Rather than getting the revenge he sought, the kid barely escapes with his life. And now we're at a place where the movie can start to pivot. All the things we expected to happen, they've not happened. So what the hell happens now? Well, that's where the excitement comes from for the audience. It's not from the things that we're planning. It's from the things we're not planning, the things we're not expecting, the things we're unprepared for. That's what you really want to be building as a screenwriter. Of course, that's also scary for us as writers. You're scared about that because what if you can't figure it out? What if you can't figure out what happens? What if you paint your character into a corner and you can't get him out of it? But that's also where that fascination lies, when you find yourself walking that tightrope where even you don't know how you're going to solve it. That's where the excitement is going to come from for your audience, where they're going to lose their sense of, I know where this is going. So don't be afraid to make it worse and worse and worse and worse and even worse. Don't be afraid to take what they want from a good character. Don't be afraid to torture them. Don't be afraid to make it worse than you even know how to get out of. Go paint yourself into a corner and then figure out your way out of it. One of the really interesting things in the Monkey Man screenplay is that they don't get the kid out of his dilemma in a naturalistic way. They don't even get him out of it in a necessarily believable way. They get him out of it in an expressionistic way. Depending on your taste, you may see this as a problem in Monkey Man, or you might have loved it. But regardless of your take on it, there's no debating that many of the choices and the actions that happen in Monkey Man defy reality. And maybe there were some more realistic solutions that the writers could have figured out in getting the kid out of his dilemma. But by choosing to put the focus on the kid's emotional journey, what it feels like inside of him, rather than on the plot machinations to make everything perfectly naturalistic, the writers of Monkey Man keep your focus on what really matters to them. The message, the action, and the journey of the kid. Monkey Man is not about how a person could actually escape this giant manhunt or how this situation would play out in the real world. No, the things that are happening here could not actually happen. What Monkey Man is doing is couching some really powerful political and emotional commentary inside of the most badass, bloody, exciting, never seen it on screen before action sequences they can create. Most of us are going to be willing to go with this because the kid is suffering, which is another really wonderful lesson. As long as you're torturing your character, as long as it's hard, as long as it's ironic, as long as it's challenging, the audience will accept almost anything. And if you couch it in the thing that the audience is coming for, in this case, the action, if you couch it in really fabulous action, you have tremendous latitude. We don't have to be bound 100% by the literal reality. Instead, we can ride the roller coaster of what it feels like. The audience is generally willing to go with what it feels like. That's how tough the kid feels on the inside. That's how smart he feels on the inside. That's how hunted and trapped he feels on the inside. That's how bad he wants it on the inside. So bad, he can defy the rules of reality. Similarly, in the expressionistic world of Monkey Man, for some reason, all of these public figures are publicly hanging out and making public statements in this high-end brothel. Not only the two he's trying to kill, but also the big political candidate who's probably supposed to be a representation of Modi, who's also hanging out there. Is this naturalism? No! What are these guys doing making campaign speeches at a brothel? Why is a guru who's trying to convince all of India to follow his spiritual path publicly showing up with his evil friends at a brothel? Is that really the message any of these characters would be sending out in the real world? No, of course it's not. Nor is it naturalistic for people to actually be that evil. Real people are complicated. But that's how evil these baddies feel. That's how twisted they feel to the kid. That's how inhuman they feel to the kid. We're taking the darkness inside of them and we're amplifying it. We're pushing it beyond what feels real to the extreme. And this is one of the things that makes the story of Monkey Man so damn powerful. Because instead of limiting themselves to reality, the writers expand their palette to the inner world of emotion. By turning up the volume beyond naturalism, beyond reality, you can actually allow the political problems of India, the way that Dev Patel and these writers see it, to become even clearer for the audience. The political problem of caste, the political problem of hopelessness, the political problem of not being able to transcend, of not being able to reach for the mango. The political problem of the mango belonging to some people, but being denied to others. Being punished for a dream you deserve to have. That is the take on the story of Hanuman that we're seeing in Monkey Man. That is the world of this piece. And this is an important concept because it relates to your taste as a writer. Not everybody's taste, your taste. For some people, making sure things feel real, as opposed to just emotionally real, making sure that things make sense, as opposed to just emotionally making sense. For some people, that's the most important thing. And if you're one of those writers, great. But that is not the most important thing in Monkey Man. Understanding these kinds of choices is part of developing your voice as a writer. Knowing this is important to me, and this is not. I'm willing to compromise, fudge, cheat, play, expand on this, but I am not willing to compromise, play, cheat, expand on that. Because every script requires compromises. Every script requires choices. You got to tell the journey of a lifetime in an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if you're lucky. That means you need to make decisions to amplify what you're trying to say in the way you're trying to say it. And that means de-amplifying things that might be important to other writers. Monkey Man is not about complicated character relationships. Monkey Man's about this is unfair. This is hopeless. and I want to transcend the hopelessness. Monkey Man is about capturing the unfairness, the world that doesn't make sense, the political message, and the emotional journey of the character inside of the most badass, bloody action sequences they can possibly create, all on a relatively low budget. Now, as we continue, there are going to be some spoilers for the second half of the movie. So if you don't want to know what happens in the second half of Monkey Man, maybe go run out and watch it, and then you can come back. So we had this heightening of reality, this expressionistic approach. And woven throughout all these fabulous action sequences, we have this allegorical story of Hanuman and this spiritual, emotional, spiritual element, right, of this idealized mother. Now that we've pushed the character halfway through the movie, at the sea change, we are beyond the place where the audience knows what's going to happen next, and we are beyond the place where the character has a plan. Where he finds himself, having somehow survived an epic manhunt, is among a community of Hydra, of outcast, transgendered Indians. Like the kid, they have also been ostracized. They have also been treated unfairly. They have also been discriminated against. They, like him, have had their home taken away from them by the exact same forces. They, like him, have been oppressed. And because of the outmoded views of the bad guys, their temple provides the one safe place for the kid. A place where even these baddies won't look for him. Because the people who live there make them so uncomfortable that they wouldn't even think to look, which, as you can see, is also political commentary. So by the end of the film, not only has the kid taken revenge, but we get this extraordinary expressionistic action sequence where, dressed up in these fantastical costumes, the Hydra are taking revenge with him as well. These transgendered women are also pulled into the fight. Again, this is not executed in naturalism. How did these lovely people learn to be kick-ass fighters overnight? Why did they dress up in their most beautiful dresses to go kick ass? Of course, this is not naturalism. This isn't the way it would happen in the real world. This is an expressionistic manifestation of the hatred inside them and also the beauty. The desire for revenge inside of them and also the desire to be themselves. This is what it feels like on the inside, externalized to the outside. Why are they dressed up in their fanciest dresses? Number one, because it looks badass. But number two, because this is the feeling of these people doing what is necessary to be them, reclaiming their identity in an unfair world. This is an expression of their identity. This is Expressionism. So we get this badass sequence. Of course, by the end of it, revenge has been taken. And also, of course, by the end of it, the kid has reached too close to the sun. His revenge doesn't lead to a happy ending. His revenge leads to death for everyone. This is the beautiful and sad allegory that's underneath this crazy action movie. Hanuman doesn't get to keep the mango. Hanuman gets punished by the gods. So Monkey Man is John Wick in India, but Monkey Man is also so much more than John Wick in India. Because the purpose is not just to entertain you. The purpose is not to say, look at the many complicated facets of this complicated issue. The purpose of Monkey Man is not even to say, look at the brilliant machinations by which this character defeats the odds and brings down the bad guys, like a movie like Ocean's 11 might do. The purpose of this screenplay is to say, look at this terrible thing. And look at how that wrong manifests in violence. Monkey Man is not just about badass action sequence, and it's not just about the story it tells. Monkey Man's about the impact it has on its audience. So when you're thinking about the power of action or any other genre, whether it's horror or romantic comedy, make sure you're thinking beyond the movie itself. Because even if you think your movie is not political, every movie is political. Every TV show is political. Every reality show is political. Everything that people watch teaches people who and how they are supposed to be and who and how they are supposed to understand the world. You can ask yourself, hey, my movie's not just about the movie. My movie's also about the effect it has on the people who watch it. So what do I want to say? And how do I want to say it? What am I going to leave them with? What is it going to make them think? How does it change the way they perceive each other or the truth? How does it build empathy? It's pretty amazing that a movie like Monkey Man can actually build empathy in its audience through a story that is literally a nonstop, horrific bloodbath of violence. You can use any genre to say something that matters to you. So think about your intentions as a screenwriter, and then use whatever mode you need to make the medicine go down. Whether that's genre, whether that's living within naturalism or expressionism, or even pushing all the way to surrealism or magical realism. With that said, there is one last concept and one last moment that I want to explore really deeply in Monkey Man. This is probably my favorite moment in the movie and one of the best pieces of writing in the film. We've been talking about all these lofty ideas. We've been talking about expressionism. We've been talking about how it doesn't have to be real. We've been talking about blowing things up to the extreme in order to feel the feeling of what is inside. But all of that still has to happen within the world of the movie, within that reality. All that still has to happen within the realm of the character, within the realm of something that can feel real, no matter how heightened it is, so that we can actually have a genuine emotional response to that. And Monkey Man does a beautiful job of that in this scene we're about to talk about. Here's the moment. The kid needs to get a gun in order to carry out his revenge. And in order to get the gun, he goes to a pen dealer. And a pen is an addictive betel nut that's eaten in India. He goes to this pen dealer, and he gives the right amount of money and the secret words, and a child is summoned to bring him to the gun dealer. And in different hands, this would be a nothing scene. That kid has the tiniest little nothing role. But even that role is allowed to fully live. Instead of just saying, okay, here's how you get there, the little child has this beautiful character moment. He asks, can I ride on his shoulders? And of course, the pawn dealer just yells at the kid and nothing good actually happens. But this moment, even within all this extreme expressionistic violence we've been talking about, makes the movie feel real. And where does this moment come from? First, thematically, this is the mango the kid is reaching for. And even that's out of reach. Just having a ride on somebody's shoulders, getting to be a kid, is out of reach for somebody of his socioeconomic status, of his caste. It's just a simple desire that cannot be realized. Even that will be punished. But second, this moment grows out of the child's emotional need, the simple need to be a child, to be loved. And even though this is the tiniest little character, instead of just being child number 3, there to advance the plot, he becomes in that moment, in that one line, a real human being who's not just doing the scene, who's not just furthering the plot, who's actually living the moment. So here's the thing I want to leave you with. Yes, we can have all these allegorical, Hanuman thematic stories that we're tracking through our script. Yes, we can do all this complicated stuff. But at the end of the day, the beauty of screenwriting and the power of screenwriting comes from character. And it's so important to remember that all of your characters are not there to do the movie, to further your plot. They're not there to be paraded through a genre. They're not even there for the political message. They're there because they have these deep desires inside of them, as deep and profound as the desires inside of you. Whether it's the desire for revenge for your mother's death, or whether it's the desire to simply ride on the shoulders of a man, to simply have the chance to be a child. So go connect to your big goals. Go take some risks and make the choices that bring those big goals to reality. But while you're doing it, remember, it's those small, tiny little character moments that are going to make it real. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. If you are getting a lot out of it, you can help us out by writing a 5-star review wherever you are streaming. And then come join us. Every Thursday night, we have a free class called Thursday Night Writes. Hundreds of writers from all over the world. You can get to know our faculty. You can get to know our community, to understand our programs, and to learn some incredible concepts in screenwriting. Check it out every Thursday night, writeyourscreenplay.com/Thursday.